Hello. I guess it's live. Hi, all of you beautiful people out there. It's Donna. Guess what day it is? It's Friday. Coming at you live again and having so much fun doing this, being in the kitchen, sharing all my little tips with you. And today I wanted to talk about some low-carb meals and snacks because I yesterday decided to go on a ketogenic eating plan. I needed to break this cycle that I've been in since we've been home and quarantined. I normally, eat very healthy, whole foods. I try to stay away from packaged foods and processed foods and high glycemic carbohydrate kind of foods as well. But lately I've been sneaking bread back into my diet. Something about being home has just been very different. And I've been having a beer or a glass of wine almost every night, which is not normal for me. I normally drink when I hang out with friends or socialize, but lately I've been kind of just doing it almost every night, a couple drinks, and then I start snacking, and then the carbs come in, and woo, it's been getting out of control, and I feel crappy, and I wanted to just end that. So for me, I just go all cold turkey. I went on keto starting yesterday, so wanted to talk a little bit about what I'm eating, what I'm preparing. I'm also going to go over my sprouts because it's so easy, and I've talked a lot about this in other lives, but let me get a little more light in here. But I want to tell you exactly how I do it. Oops, I messed up the camera there. So these are broccoli sprouts. And my favorite are broccoli and kale and alfalfa mostly because they're all lower carb. You can sprout any kind of grain or seed. You have to make sure it's organic. For example, lentils. If you buy lentils in the bags at the store and they're not organic, they probably won't sprout. But if you get them at a health food store or you buy organic, they will, but I stay away from the lentils and the mung beans because they're higher in carb and starch, so I stick to kale and broccoli and alfalfa, and super easy to grow. So let me get back to the keto. So to jumpstart myself into ketosis, I'm doing what is called a fat fast, and I'm following this book. And basically it just gets you into ketosis fast. And once you get into ketosis, I don't know if anyone's ever done it, but you are burning your own fat as fuel. So you really lose all your hunger and cravings. You just kind of lose your appetite because you're just not hungry all the time like normal. And it levels the blood sugar, and it stops the body from producing so much insulin, so you go into fat burning mode instead of fat storage. But this fat fast basically is about, so what I'm eating is about 1,000 calories a day, and I only do this for like 3 to 5 days. This is just the jump start. And so it's about 1,000 calories, but it's like 85% fat, so healthy fats, very little protein and almost no carb. And that's just the induction. You don't have to do that. I do it because I like to get into ketosis fast, because getting into ketosis is difficult because you're not eating as much and you feel hungry, although it's been actually going really well for me, and I think it's because the fat is very satiating. But you have to be careful not to eat too many fats because it's high caloric, so you've got to really count the fats. But then once I get into ketosis, then I'm going to just eat normal ketosis. Now, ketosis does not mean Atkins, all this, protein or meat. You actually have to keep the protein down a little bit, to normal levels. You don't want to eat like huge steaks and think you're, doing ketogenic, because it'll actually kick you out of ketosis. And the other thing is hard liquor or wine actually has 0 carb, but what ends up happening, people think they can do that on ketosis, and once you're really into ketosis, you could add a little bit of that. You wouldn't want to drink beer, but you could drink a little bit of hard liquor with like seltzer water. But that your body's going to burn those calories before your own fat. So if you're doing it for weight loss, I would just not do that. But this is a really cool book. It's called Ketotarian. So it's the keto diet without meat. It just has eggs, fish, and fish is so much lower calorie than meat. So I tend to use fish as my protein when I'm on keto. So just a couple of things, and I'll also show you how to make the sprouts, because that's kind of where I'm getting my veggie right now, is just a handful of sprouts. And broccoli sprouts have 10 times more antioxidants than eating broccoli itself. So really good for us. So here's what I'm doing in the morning. So the first thing I do in the morning is I have my superfood smoothie mix. I have 1 tablespoon, which is only a couple carbs, because when you're counting carbs, you want to subtract the fiber. So 5 grams of carbohydrate minus 2 grams of fiber. So 3 grams of carb in 1 tablespoon of that. But it's loaded with superfoods, everything from special mushrooms to maca powder to cinnamon and all kinds of spices that are really good for us. So I love that smoothie mix. It's just one of my favorites, and it's from Bright Earth. So I take unsweetened almond milk. You could use coconut milk. Just make sure it's unsweetened. This only has 1 carbohydrate in it per cup. And I heat that up with a tablespoon of the smoothie mix. I put a little bit of cacao powder in it, a dash of cayenne pepper, because it's that chocolatey kind of spicy mix that's really popular in Mexico, and I love that. Gives it a little bite. And a tablespoon of coconut oil, or you could put 2 tablespoons in. So with this fat fast, I'm doing about 200 calories, 225 about 4 to 5 times a day. So these little mini meals. So that's one of them. I had that this morning. I'm still not hungry. I made these fat bombs, which are super tasty. And the bottom layer is unsweetened chocolate with cacao butter. So it's like buying chocolate without the dark part. It's the white part of chocolate. It's the butter, cacao butter. So I add that to make it more fatty, basically. And then the top layer has almond butter and then I add almonds to it, chopped almonds. I add coconut flakes because I like that crunchy sort of texture. And then to sweeten both layers, I add a little bit of a sugar alcohol. You could also do stevia. I'm not wild about stevia in food. I like stevia in my tea, but not so much in food. So that is a fat bomb, and probably half of that would actually be one of my mini meals. And then these things are called miracle noodles. So I don't know if you've ever heard of these. They have 0 calories in them. It's all fiber. And it comes in water in this packet, but you drain it. It's basically a form of seaweed, some kind of kelp, and not really kelp actually, because I think kelp is green, but it's made from a flower that's made from some sea plant, and it's all fiber. There's no calories, no carbs, no protein, nothing else in it. It's actually 0 calories. And you drain it, and then you end up with this noodle, and you don't have to cook it, but you just heat it with whatever sauce you want. So I tend to use coconut milk, and I take the thick part from the can. I don't use the liquidy part because it's higher carb. I take 2 tablespoons of the thick part. I heat it with my noodles in a pan, and then I add either a little bit of pesto to make like an Italian pesto dish, or maybe curry powder to make more of an Indian curry kind of dish, and it's very tasty. The texture is a little weird. I will say it's not like eating pasta, unfortunately, but there's no flavor. So whatever flavor you're getting is from the sauce that you put on. So that's another meal I'll have during this fat fast. And then the fat bomb, I'll do my super smoothie in the morning. I also make this coconut bread, which is out of this book, and it's really awesome. I love having this around, and I keep it in the freezer pre-sliced. Here's a picture of it in the back. But this coconut bread I make with, it basically has coconut flakes, coconut butter, and eggs, and that's it. Like, there's nothing else in there. Maybe a little bit, flaxseed. It's a coconut flax bread. A little bit of salt, a little bit of baking soda, a little bit of cider vinegar. But essentially it's a low-carb bread, and I bake it, then I slice it once it cools, and then I keep it in the freezer in a Ziploc, and I pull one piece out, kind of let it defrost. I toast it, and then you could put a little almond butter on it, for example. Really tasty. So that would be one of my mini meals during this fat fast. But once I'm through the fat fast, then I'm just going to eat normal, but then I'm actually going to reduce my fat content. I just learned that yesterday from a chiropractic friend of mine who was warning me against the fat. He said, if you want to really lose weight, which I do right now because I've gained about 7-8 pounds, or maybe 7 since I've been home, quarantined, and I would like to lose that, and so you need to reduce the caloric intake, which fat has a lot of calories. So he said, go low carb, do lots of green leafy vegetables, and a little bit of protein. Spread the protein out throughout the day. Have small amounts, because of the large amount of protein. Like if you eat your daily allowance, which is about 60 grams for me, if I eat it all in one meal, that could kick me out of ketosis. So I spread the protein out, I reduce the fat intake, and then I increase the low starch veggies. And then that's what I pretty much would eat the rest of the time I'm in ketosis. Now, I'm not going to do ketogenic forever. I just kind of do it to jumpstart my system. It's really good for leveling blood sugars. It's really good for reducing inflammation, reducing water weight that you're hanging on to, bloating. I feel great on it. I have so much energy when I'm on ketogenic. And performance athletes, actually it's very common that they go on ketogenic, because you can go for hours and hours and be fine and not get that blood sugar crash that normally I do, and that's from being insulin intolerant. And normally I can't go that many hours without feeling that blood sugar crash. So with ketogenic, you could go for hours and hours because your body is using its own fat for fuel. So a lot of performance athletes do ketogenic. Okay, so any questions? I will talk about my sprouts last, of how to actually make them. So I love these trays. I get them at our local store, Peaceful Valley Farm Supply, but I'm sure you could buy them online. They're called Sprout Master. They have lots of different ways you can make sprouts, a lot of different types of gadgets, but this is my favorite because it's kind of spread out versus the towers. There's towers where the water drips through each layer and ends up in the bottom, and to me it just stays too moist, and I get a little funky about maybe mold growing things. So this one is a lot more air that comes in. So I take 1 tablespoon of my seeds, and I buy these online. Amazon has them. They're organic. Health food stores have them. And you first need to soak it in water for at least like 6 hours. I usually just do it overnight because that gets the seeds sort of germinated, I think, and going. And then you discard that water and actually just pour it right into this tray over the sink. And I have 3 trays that stack up. I do a tablespoon of seeds for each tray. It has a bottom to kind of collect a little bit of water. You want to, strain it well, get the water out, but it should be wet. And then you put it over one layer and you put the top on it, and then the next layer just goes on top. And so you stack them up and you just put them aside on the countertop. You don't want the sun getting in this first phase, and the seeds will grow, but you rinse them twice a day. If they dry out, and I'll tell you that alfalfa seeds are tiny and they dry out really fast. If they dry out, then they won't continue and turn into sprouts. So you want to rinse them twice a day. Make sure they're kind of all spread out, because as they start growing, you don't want it in clumps. And sometimes I'll just use a spray bottle too, if I don't want to mess the seeds up. Once the seeds start taking hold and they start growing, they'll stay in place. But in the beginning, when you're rinsing, the seeds kind of get into clumps. So you rinse it twice a day, and then you'll see it starts growing in about 24 hours or so. And then they start growing, and then basically about 4 days, maybe 4 or 5 days later, it depends on the seed, then you end up with these tall sprouts. They won't be green because they haven't really gotten any sunlight. So the very last day, I uncover the top and I just lay them out on the counter in front of the window, and then the green they'll turn green, and then that's where you get that great chlorophyll, which is so good for us. And then you cover them back up and stick them in the fridge, and they're still kind of growing, really, but they last like up to a week in the fridge. But I like to eat them maybe within 5 days. But you're basically eating vegetables that have just been grown. So they say that when you buy vegetables in the store, the longer they've been sitting around after they've been harvested, the less nutrients that are left in them. So that's why it's so great to grow your own food, especially in the garden. But sprouts are an easy way to do it inside, because then you're eating those vegetables right out of the garden, and you're getting the maximum amount of chlorophyll and nutrients. So I encourage everyone to garden and to try growing the sprouts, and let me know how it works for you. Okay, that's all I have for today. Let's see if there are any questions. I see we have some people on. Ashley, thanks for coming. And Anathea and Therese and Gabriel. So nice to have you join me. I hope everyone's doing well. I know we're all getting tired of sitting at home. The weather is beautiful here now in Northern California, so I'm feeling very blessed that I can get outside. I started a walking club every Friday at 5, so any of you want to come join us and do social distancing on our walk, let me know. And check back with me next week, Friday at 10, because I'll let you know how this Ketogenic's going, how the weight loss is going, how the inflammation's going, how I'm feeling better. But I'm going to put this out there because that'll give me the accountability of sticking to it at least another week, but I plan on doing it longer. So thank you all for coming. Namaste. Have a beautiful day, and we'll catch up with you soon.